losers. Inspire.
Welcome back to another Wisdom Wednesday discussion. I am your guide, Science Inspire, generating, uplifting, inspiring, developing, and empowering you to live inspired every day forever, because that's life. Are you ready to take the leap? Today we're talking about expansion practices. We have something new, a little bit of old, something blue. Not like we're getting married, huh? We are to ourselves as we grow into this inspired growth that we're talking about. So expansion practices, turning obstacles into opportunities to leap into inspired growth. This is a continuation on our monthly series that we've been doing for the month of June. Last week, we talked about love, love, love. And as we continue to build on that, we're leaping into our inspired growth. The affirmation that we have for today, let us affirm, I welcome growth opportunities as sacred gifts. Our intention is to equip you with the framework to reinterpret your challenges as expansion portals, transform our obstacles into launchpads for quantum growth, and to embody growth as a devotional act. The outcome is to apply our LEAP protocol, which we will get into, to a current challenge and create a personalized expansion blueprint. So let's get started with discussion or talking about discomfort. So we're going to open with inviting in discomfort. And the guiding question that we have is, what is your greatest barrier? And what if that barrier was actually a trampoline? So what if your greatest barrier was actually a trampoline? And as we're talking about inviting in discomfort, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable right now. Normally, I'm a stickler for time, being on time. And if you're watching this, playing back, you're like, on time, we get here at the same time every week. You post it and we watch it. But we can always be on that clock and you're like, I gotta show up and I'm ready to do this at this point in time. And then all of a sudden that time doesn't come. And now your wheels start spinning. You're supposed to be there at this time. Now you're running behind. Now we're spinning out of control, going backwards. It feels like we're free falling. And at that moment, that barrier, we can use that as a trampoline. How do you bounce back off of that from what is a perceived setback? Because that's all it is. We perceive it to be something because we are the ones that empowered it in the first place. And for me, that's time. I expect to do something at a certain time. And is it not interesting, peculiar, something weird? When every time you are about to do something, you're like, you know what? I want to do this. And then here comes all of these distractions. Here comes all these obstacles. It feels like one thing after another. That is the barrier. How do we use that as a trampoline? We can't do anything about that setback. You can't do anything about that time. You can do something with that now moment that you're in. Say, okay, that was a setback. I arrived late. We're going to get ourselves together. We're going to shake it off. We're going to propel forward. And so a wisdom anchor that we're going to start with that talks about this. Actually, before I get into that wisdom anchor, I want to start with a quantum principle that is part of our wisdom anchor. And that quantum principle is pressure creates the energy threshold for quantum leaps. So I know that this pressure I'm feeling right now that I put on myself because I feel like I'm behind, wasn't on time, we're about to leapfrog into the future with this one. We're going to quantum leap past that perceived barrier. This may be my best one yet. The wisdom anchor that we have to back that up is from Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Let me read that again. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And what sticks out to me, behold, Again, these attention grabbers. Behold, what I will do starts with an affirming statement. Hey, let me get your attention. I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. So I will do a new thing. This is something new. Yet now it shall spring forth. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now. And then it says, shall ye not know it? Will we not know when that new thing comes? Are you going to be able to see it? Not physically, because that new thing isn't always something physical. It could be something spiritual or that internal transformation. Shall ye not know it? Or asked, are we not able to see the divine work in progress, which is already happening, which is already underway? This is personal because, again, I'm telling you, at a certain time, I expect to be online, ready to go. It don't happen. Yet that may be that trampoline springing us forward. Are you able to see the new thing which is happening? Every time you were right here at the same time, no interruptions, no setbacks, then all of a sudden, things just popping up out of nowhere, out of your control. At that moment, I had to ask myself. Actually, I had to calm myself because that's when it's the most dangerous, when you're already running late, when you're already behind, and now this happens and you got a flat tire and all of a sudden your phone's dead and you just are frustrated. And it's like you want to explode. Are you able to see the new thing? Are you able to see what is already in progress, what is already underway? Do you have to see it to believe it? Because they also often say that seeing is believing. And oftentimes we use our eyes when we're expected to see. So if we don't see it with our eyes, then we can't believe it in our minds. Maybe it's not the eyes that we're supposed to see with. Because if we have to physically see it, and we're told that the new thing may not even be physical. It may be spiritual. It may be internal. So how can you see that? It's not with your eyes. Just like we talked about love last week in our previous discussion. You have to be able to see, not just with our eyes, with our minds, with our hearts, that which is already underway. And it is because of that that I said, you know what? I will even make a way in the wilderness. When I'm lost, don't know which way to go, we're still going to make a way. And rivers in the desert, to make a river in the desert where there wasn't none, to make something out of nothing, for there is never lack. But are we able to see it? This is why we're talking about growing, leaping actually into that inspired growth. We are leaping into that next part where we're not just physically looking for it. We already see it. So we already believe it. So we just keep going because we understand, hey, I will even make a way in the wilderness. So if you're lost, keep going. Because what is there to be lost? What does it mean to be lost anyway? I remember somebody shared with me. He said, the best way to find your way around a city is to get lost. You want to find your way around a new city, get lost. That's how you're going to learn it. So when we think about being lost, I think the only way you can be lost is if you stop, is if you give up. Because as long as you keep going, we'll find a way. As long as we keep pushing through to persist, we will find a way. Because the quantum principle told us that pressure creates the energy threshold for quantum leaps. So you can't even quantum leap without pressure. The more pressure, the more powerful that leap is going to be. The Taoist principle that we have to back this up comes from Lao Tzu. The usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness. When I think about that, I see two different distinctions for me. Is how much when I felt my cup was full, maybe in my youth, that's what I thought. That's when I felt the most valuable. You hear that term, is the cup half full or half empty? And when we think about that, we're like, oh, half full, because I would rather be full than empty. Yet it tells us that the usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness, because what can you do with a full cup? What could I do when I thought that I knew it all? When I thought that I had it all? There was nothing I could do but to pour that cup out, to spill over, because I was full. And this also, in my mind, shows what we have an issue with in society today. Because when I look at the empty cup, I think of my elders. When I think of a full cup, I think of my youth. Because when we're young, we're full of energy. We're full of life, full of potential and possibility. Yet we lack that experience. We lack the understanding. And as we get older, you're believed that now you're at towards the end of life and that cup is emptying. So what use is an empty cup? That empty cup, when paired with a full cup, you give that full cup somewhere to go. If the full cup pours into the empty cup, you refill the elder. What that means is that youthful experience that we have in that full of life, that energy that we don't know what to do with, it's the empty cup that shows us what to do with that. You got to pour some of that out into there. And so that empty cup is useful because it gives you somewhere to go, something to fill up. Without that, it's going to tip over. You're spilling over. Without that, this is just an empty cup that needs to be poured into, but we don't care about that. So to me, it shows where these obstacles, emptiness, and this opportunity, they have to meet. They serve a purpose. They serve each other. When we separate them, that's where the issue is. The usefulness of an empty cup is that you can use it. We have to find more ways to utilize that, to understand that even in uncomfortable space invites growth. That emptiness is uncomfortable, yet it invites growth. You can always grow. You can always learn. That full cup is uncomfortable. So are we pitting one against another? Is one better than the other? Or are they both needed? Yet if I'm able to separate the two, a full cup has nowhere to go, and an empty cup has no use. And this is what causes us to not be able. This is what stagnates growth. You are still able to grow in our elder age, just as we have much to learn and grow in our youth. There used to be a time where those two things were together, where the full cup poured into the empty cup. So now that youth can gain more experience as it goes on. That elder is replenished and has youth and has a use, reciprocity, a cycle. Our life lens to back this up is your obstacle isn't a stop sign. It's a runway. Only when you stay grounded does it block you. Your obstacle isn't a stop sign. It's a runway. And if you think about a plane on a runway, if the plane continues all the way to the end of the runway, you stay grounded. Are you going to blame the runway for that? Or the plane for not taking off? It's not the obstacle that stopped us. It's the fact that we stayed grounded. We didn't understand that obstacle or see that obstacle as an opportunity. Yet, when we rise, you take off. It launches you. So we always have that choice. Are you going to stay grounded until you run out of runway? Or are you going to take off? The choice is always yours. And our core principle, as we talk about how the physics of expansion, I want us to understand that growth is a spiritual law. Everything either expands or contracts, expands or contracts. So this is the law. Yet if something expands, you're going to say it's getting too big. If something contracts, it's getting too small. It's shrinking. When we understand this as a process, we allow ourselves to grow when we need to grow. And then we allow ourselves to get smaller when we need to get smaller. And what I mean by get smaller is releasing some of that knowledge that we have. We sit and we grow and we gain so much knowledge, you expand, but you don't want to release it. You don't want to share it. You don't want to teach it. You don't want to let go. You have gained so much. That's when it's time for us to release. Because if we don't, we see what happens. We see what happens in the body when we gain too much. We see what happens in the mind when we gain too much. We see what happens with our emotions when we hold too much. And yet the opposite is also true. If you give up too much. So we have to learn the rhythm to expand and to contract, because growth is a spiritual law. Everything either expands or contracts. So why do we resist growth? What is it about growth that growing pains. So when we're young, we all want to grow up so fast. And then as we grow, we start to look back and we want to contract. We want to go backwards. The identity shifts. And we ask ourselves, who will I become if and when I begin to grow as I get older? There's a part of our life where we just dream, when I get older, I want to be this, 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 and this. And then there's a part in our life where we start seeing ourselves get older and we're like, what is this? I don't know what's going to happen to me. If I go over there, what does that mean? If I leave, growing pains. We resist growth because our fear of who will we be, as if we will no longer be ourselves. Well, then who are we anyway? Whose line is it anyway? Whose life is it anyway? We resist something that is meant to happen. That is growth, our expansion. But we also are attached to that certainty. So we will resist growth because we're attached to where we are now. I got so comfortable here. I grew and now I'm good right now. I don't need any more because, again, it goes back. I'm attached to certainty because I'm afraid of what will I be? Who will I become? Will they still support me? Will they still love me? Will they still care? Will they still be there? That thought alone makes me want to just sit right here and not go anywhere because I don't want to lose anything or anybody. I'm okay right now. I'm comfortable. And they would always tell us in the Marines, they had a saying, they said, hey, gents, complacency kills. They beat that into our heads all the time, letting you know complacency kills. If you want to stay in that space that you're in right now, you're complacent, you don't want to grow, you don't want to move around, that same place we will bury ourselves in. We get stuck there. And at a time we're supposed to expand, you begin to contract. And we resist growth because our identity shifts of who will I become. We're attached to the certainty and we've internalized shame from the past. It's back there behind you. Yeah, because we've internalized that. Now there's a shame from the past failures that we had. So now I don't even believe I can grow because I failed before. So that must mean that I'm a failure. I lost, so I'm a loser. And that's it. It's over with. That is the obstacle turning into a stop sign. That is you staying grounded on the runway because the last flight you had was kind of rocky. So now you're afraid to take off. You can't do anything about that past, but move forward. That is the only thing you can do about the past is to move forward. But if you see how all those things go together to create resistance, a fear of who we may be or become, an attachment to the certainty, to the complacency of the now because of the past failures. The thing is, though, you don't fear growth. You fear leaving behind the comfort of your current self, that complacency. I am comfortable with who I am today. And so I don't know about tomorrow. I just want to stay right here. Because if I actually get rid of that piece, or if I actually improve or continue to go forward again, who will I be? I don't know if when I do that, that it's actually going to pan out the way that you're saying it. I don't believe that if I continue to go this way, that I'm actually going to be successful. That's the danger. That's a personal feeling that I've had as an entrepreneur. How the hell do I know that what I'm doing is actually right? because I'm seeing everything around me and it doesn't look like what I'm doing. I'm thinking about the past and all those times that I failed. And I'm like, well, how do I even know that I'm going to succeed? Because all those times that I failed in the past made me internalize failure. I lost, so therefore now I must be a loser. And losers don't win, do they? When we talk about that, when you visualize that and you're thinking on that past moment where you failed and you see yourself not accomplish the thing that you wanted to accomplish, or someone said you couldn't do it and then you didn't do it. So now they must be right and you must be wrong. The thing is, when we resist, we become stagnant. So we're resisting that growth. We become stagnant. The energy no longer flows. And we're not necessarily surrendering to the action that we need to go forward. We just gave up. The growth is all a part of that. Yet we have to keep going. We have to love out reaching set expectations regarding self. We have to understand that that loss is the catalyst to my wins. So that tension is going to be my divine catalyst. Yet I have to pair that with intention if I want to leap. That intention is my action, that which I must apply, the human action. There's a divine aspect, and then there is a human aspect. Sometimes, most of the time, if not all the time, we're only doing one or the other. Either we're thinking that we can just do it all ourselves and we just want to do a bunch of action on our own, we're going to force it. Or we're just going to sit back and say, let Jesus take the wheel. He'll do it. Yet we are told time after time and shown those two things go together. And when we understand that, that is when growth happens. There's never a time where you was just sitting there doing nothing. And then it was like, that's how I made it. You had to do something. You had to get up. You had to realize, you had to accept. These two things are paired together. We may not see and understand how I got here, but there's no way that I just laid down on my back and then I was just moved here. I had to do something. And when we pair those two together and I understand the divine counterpart that is there when it shows up and I don't reject it, and I add to that my human action. Here we have flow. Here we have expansion. So you have the flow of that energy and are surrendering to the action which needs to happen. It's not giving up. It's I didn't want to do that thing, so I just stopped. And next thing you know, I had to do it. It was no other way around it. I didn't want to do this thing that I'm doing right now. Talking, being in front of people, putting myself out there. Then when I surrendered, you see what I'm doing right now? Yet there was a human action that had to happen. I had to do it. Before I didn't want to do it. And here comes the divine catalyst, and it says, all right, there's this tension. Okay. Do you like feeling that tension? No, I don't like feeling this tension. Okay. So you're going to have to do something. Didn't matter how much I fought against it. And so an example is this expansion catalyst can be that unexpected setback. And then what happens is we develop a resistant tactic, which is the victim mindset. An unexpected setback. Now I create a victim mindset within myself. We have a fear of failure. And then all of a sudden I begin to procrastinate. Let's reframe those things with our life reframe. So that unexpected setback that created that victim mindset, we reframe that by realizing that space is being cleared for new beginnings, for new blessings to come in. So I lost my job. Now I feel like I'm no good. I can't provide for my family. When I recognize that, okay, that is going to create space for a new blessing, I then allow that to come in, because that job, you ain't really want it anyway. How many days did you spend wishing, hoping, praying that something better would come along? You had to lose first. Then when it happened, now we're cursing that. Oh, why? You asked. This is how you get to that next step. You have to remove in order to renew. If I got my clothes that I'm wearing right now, I'm not going to put new clothes on top of these clothes. I got to take these old clothes off to put on new clothes. My favorite pair of shoes, I got to throw them away because they got old in order to get a new pair. That old life that I had to let that go so we can be renewed in this new life where we are living inspired every day forever. But that shit hurt. That didn't feel good. When it was happening, it didn't feel good. When it was happening, we're like, why? No, we must be reminded. No, this is creating space for something new. Surrender to that action. When we have that fear of failure and now we're stuck in procrastination and we're not understanding why do I procrastinate? We want to know why and how do I get out of this? And we're going through all of these programs, looking up all of these different tools and resources and how to do this and how to do that and what this means. Realize that your courage is stronger than your comfort. So that fear you have, now you sitting around just procrastinating, don't know what to do. Your courage is stronger than that comfort. Because when we procrastinate, that's a place of comfort. Otherwise, we're going to be going there every day. And when we acknowledge that, like, oh, wait, time out. Am I comfortable procrastinating? Is this become part of my new norm? The moment we begin to acknowledge that, you already are moving out of it. Because we just came from one area to another. So how do we get to that other side? How do we get from procrastination to action without identifying it, without understanding it, without accepting it, without surrendering? Now we can see how our courage is stronger than that moment of comfort that I'm in because I had a fear of failure. So I don't want to fail again. So I'm comfortable not doing nothing. We demean ourselves. You say, I'm procrastinating. And you have people telling you that, hey, winners don't procrastinate and da-da. No, that's the issue, is we keep listening to what everybody else is diagnosing us, telling us why we're stuck in, why you're doing this and what you should be doing and why you shouldn't be doing that. And you need to identify why you're doing it. How did you get there? What did you fail at that you're so fearful that you don't even want to do anything? And if we can remove that fear that you have of failure, are you still going to procrastinate? Because these are not things you came in here doing. You weren't born procrastinating. You didn't even know what that word was until you grew up. And then somebody threw it on you. They wanted you to do something they wanted you to do, and you didn't do it. So they say you procrastinate, you lazy, you're this, you're that. Maybe you're at a place of transition. Maybe you're trying to understand, seeking to understand, what was it? How did I get here? Because when I get that understanding, now I can move forward. We have to reframe. So we're going to take that problem, whatever it is, whatever that challenge is, this challenge, and you're now realizing that that challenge is the sacred soil that you need for whatever quality that you're looking for to grow. So this challenge is sacred soil for my blank to grow. So today, I leap. Today, I leap. For behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. So this conflict grows my patience. Today, I leap by listening without defense. That's how an example of that challenge. This challenge is my sacred soil for this quality to grow. For me, this conflict grows my patience, because there was a time where I wasn't patient. And today I leap by listening without defense. I'm going to hear it. Whatever it is that I need to hear, I'm not going to be defensive. I need to hear that. What is that thing that's challenging me to grow? Let me learn from it, not turn from it and not want to look at it. And so the practice of expansion in action. We're going to talk about our historical model today. And this historical model comes from a person who I grew up on. And when I say I grew up on them, I grew up seeing this person. I grew up hearing about this person. They were alive at a time when I was youthful, in my younger days, when I was a little kid. That person is Maya Angelou. And we're going to talk about her soul alchemy. Soul alchemy. Okay. Her historical example is going to provide that context for how we can apply this LeAP protocol that we're going to get into. And so we're going to use Miss Maya Angelou as this example, because Maya Angelou took trauma and silence, turned that into a voice, which created a global impact. So the trauma that she faced caused her to be silent. That silence, in that silence, she developed a voice, and then she expressed that and had a global impact. And so her barrier, which is what we're going to talk about first, was at the age of 8. When I read this, I've been getting into Maya Angelou for this discussion because I didn't know about her life and history. I just knew about her. I knew about the book, the poems. I watched her speak at Bill Clinton's inauguration. And so you hear the greatness about a person, but I never knew her story. So at 8, Maya Angelou was raped by her mother's boyfriend. And after reporting the crime, her attacker was murdered. I don't even want to say imagine that. Don't imagine that. But she was raped and her attacker was murdered. And so as a young girl, she believed that her voice caused that. She believed her voice caused his death. So because she believed that that was the cause, she became mute. Trauma so great, she didn't want to speak. Silenced her voice. And her leap into action started because she said, I thought my voice killed him. Now think about that. As an 8-year-old, you think that your voice had the power to kill someone. So because of that, she stopped speaking. She didn't think about what happened to her at that time and saying, oh, this was justified for this. She said, my voice, because I spoke up, he died. I'm not speaking anymore. So at that point, she began to identify that silence as her prison. But later, she recognized it as the road leading to freedom, the way out. The same thing that I believe trapped me is the same thing that set me free. Her mind began to shift when she started to work with one of her teachers, Bertha Flowers. And she said at that time, she reframed trauma as a catalyst for literary mastery. So her teacher insisted, you do not love poetry until you speak it. You do not love poetry until you speak it. And I love poetry. So now you just challenged me to say, if I really love this thing, I'll speak it. Yet you're also knowing that my voice, I believe, is a problem. So I silence myself. So then I challenge you. The same idea of hate that caused us to silence ourselves, we are going to be freed by the love. If you love poetry, you're going to recite it. You're going to speak it. That's when she began to embrace writing as her soul alchemy. She turned and transformed it into art. She took her pain and transformed it into art. Or is it not say that all things will be made anew? All. So when we think about the concept of waste, what is waste? There is only alchemy. There's only transformation. The ugly duckling turned to a swan. And so her leap into action from that mindset shift, as she began to reframe something that caused her pain, she transformed my voice destroys into my words liberate. And this book that I'm reading right now, I don't think I've even seen this book since I was a kid. Yet as a kid, only parts of it was read to me. Now I'm fully immersed in this book. I know why the caged bird sings. That made her famous. So her voice that she thought destroyed, that same voice liberated her. And she began to speak. How'd she do that? During that time she wasn't speaking. And she talks about this at the beginning of the book, in the first few chapters, how much she loved Shakespeare. So she began to memorize Shakespeare's poems, his plays. And she began to use the rhythmic nature. If you've ever read Shakespeare, if you ever read poetry, there's a rhyme, a rhythm. a flow. She began to use that to reconnect to her body. And as an adult, I told y'all about this. I told y'all, dance became her somatic therapy. So as an adult, she used that dance. So the words, let's go back real quick. Because in the beginning, we said, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? So at a time, she didn't know it. That the words that she used, that began the poetry that began to free her voice, she also had to free her body. I remember she's quoted as saying that the body will remember things that the mind forgets. So that dancing became therapy. So through speaking, she trained with her teacher, Bertha Flowers. And then she trained with a lady named Martha Graham and Pearl Primus to physically reclaim her voice. Putting that movement, that action together, not just a thought. These things come together. And on her way, before she even writes, this is on her way before she writes the book. The book makes her famous. But these are the steps she had to take to get there. She had to perform Calypso. And I'm still looking that up. I'm trying to find the actual performance. I don't know if I'm going to find it because it was in like 1950 something. But she performed Calypso in a club in San Francisco. And so the fact that she had to figure out the breath, the movement, and the lyrics, for her, that was, I have to speak. This thing that I felt caused pain. I learned to move, freeing myself, feeling liberated. And that is a resilience. I didn't know that she was also one of the first Black female streetcar conductors at 16, because she was always resilient. At 16, the silence, to silence yourself, is resilience. Yet at 16, she became San Francisco's first Black female streetcar conductor. Why? Simply because she applied like 20 something times, literally. She ain't stopped. She's just gonna keep applying. You keep applying that pressure and you're gonna get the job. A lot of times we like, man, maybe that's too much. Nah, I'm 21 times. I know for a fact if I apply for a job once and you turn me down, what you turn me? I wasn't applying again. She applied 21 times. That same mindset she applied to her own life to continue to push herself, not to just settle and say, I'm just gonna be silent for life. Because that is a traumatic thing that happened. But she kept going. And in 1969, she published The Caged Bird. Didn't matter about fears of backlash. Didn't matter about sparking global dialogue on trauma. This is 1969, not 2019, where we all like cool and we don't see no racial oppression or anything. She's in 1969 and she's a woman, courageous. And this is what leads little old me to be watching the TV in 1993 and to see her perform on the post of the morning at Bill Clinton's inauguration. Why am I watching the inauguration at 1993? I was only 7 something. Because at that time, Bill Clinton was the biggest thing since sliced bread, especially in my community. He was the first Black president. And I'm laughing because that's hilarious to me right now. Yeah. But anyway, it led her to the biggest stage. And not everybody actually was able to do that, to perform at a presidential inauguration. She was actually the first poet since Robert Frost in where? 1961. So in 1969, she published The Caged Bird, not Why the Caged Bird Sings, The Caged Bird, which we are going to actually get into at the end of this. In 1969, she published that. In 1961, Robert Frost inaugurated a president, or had the honor of speaking at a presidential inauguration, speaking his poetry. And she's the first one in 1993, since 1961. And I think we've recently, a few years ago, had another young lady recite poetry at an inauguration. And her LiEF mantra to do this, but to do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, powerful. Because I used to hear that growing up. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Didn't even realize, like, wait, that is powerful. There's nothing to it. Do it. Or like Nike say, just do it. And so why is it that I want to bring up Maya Angelou and say, oh, she embodies our LEAP protocol. So let's get into what that LEAP protocol is. LEAP, to leap. And we're going to go through this with Maya Angelou so you can see, and then we're going to go through the protocol which we can apply. LEAP, L stands for locate. She named her silence as her frontier. So silence, she said to locate it. That is the thing that my journey that I have to overcome. Her obstacle is what she had to learn from. The obstacle she had to learn from, the loss she had to learn from in order to engage. And how did she engage? She turned her pain, she alchemized that into poetry. She alchemized that into poetry. She engaged. The spiritual principle behind that is we must understand we delight, yes, in the butterfly, the end stage, but not the chrysalis, where everything becomes anew. That caterpillar had to lose to go into a chrysalis stage to come out as a butterfly. Yet we only praise the butterfly, the beautiful thing that came out of, not the process that made it. The beauty is the chrysalis. The result is the butterfly. The beauty is the pain, the obstacle, the challenge that you are going through, that you're stuck in, your chrysalis stage. Because once you get that eureka moment, you're going to turn into that butterfly. That's when they want to praise you. But at that point, you already know you're a butterfly. They don't know what it was like to go through what you went through. And so we have to locate, engage, then we have to anchor. And so her anchor was she used dance and language as her somatic truth, because those were the things that limited her at that time. Her voice, her body was hurt physically, and she shut down her voice. So she had to learn to speak, empower her voice, and then empower her body again. And I don't know what that's like. Yet I can relate to aspects of this story when she's talking about silencing herself. And she said, again, the body remembers what the mind forgets. So you may have forgotten what happened, but your body remembered. So she had to free that as well. And lastly, you propel. We locate what's the issue. We engage it. We anchor ourselves down, and then we propel forward. Micro actions equal macro impact. Do one thing daily that scares the shit out of you. My one thing daily that I would do that relates to Maya was speak. I remember my teachers telling me, like, hey, we can hear you. Your voice carries. And then it was like, what you saying? I can't hear you. And I was in this frustrated moment. I'm like, okay, so either I'm speaking too loud or now I'm speaking too low. Now I want to speak it all. I didn't like even hearing my voice on recordings. I had to do one thing daily that scares you. Speak, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, dancing when your body was harmed, speaking when you felt like your voice caused pain or suffering to others. The key alchemy that Maya demonstrated was that you may encounter defeats, but you must not be defeated. You may encounter defeats. You're going to lose a couple battles, but it ain't over. You're not defeated. That's the perfect example of what we're always saying when we say keep going. Goin. I take off the G on purpose because I want you to keep in. That's where you got to find the strength to come out. She embodied that. That's her life. She embodied that. She stood on business. 10 toes. And so the modern parallel that we have to that is our silence is stagnant beliefs, our untapped potential. Yet our voice, that which can free us, your voice, that's that life practice waiting to be lived. That living inspired every day forever practice that's waiting to be lived. So Let's now move. Let's now leap forward. So first, let's talk about your expansion blockers, and then we'll get into this leap protocol. Maybe you doubt your readiness. That's a blocker. Play a hater. Get them out the way. Why you always hating on me? Doubting your own readiness. Romanticizing the old you. Remember, I don't know what I'll be if I keep going. So the old me was, remember when I was younger, it's so correct. New. All things shall be renewed. Or maybe you lack the vision or clarity, or you believe you lack the vision or clarity. And that can be affected because you doubt your readiness. Behold, and it says, shall ye not know it? You lack vision or clarity. Do you lack? Or your doubt in your readiness makes it so that you do not know it. Let's locate it. And we're going to use wisdom anchors to locate this. So our spiritual anchor for locate, remember, LEAP stands for locate, engage, anchor, propel. The spiritual anchor for locate comes from Psalms 139, chapter 139, verse 23. And it says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. Search me and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. That calls for us to name our resistance. I feel stuck at what? When you say search me, I feel stuck. Search, where do I feel stuck? Name that. Try me and know my thoughts. Have you ever done it? Or do we just accept defeat? Because we doubt. So there's no need to search. There's no need to know. There's no need to try. To locate, we're going to search. To engage, our spiritual anchor comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. To engage is to be transformed. So to be transformed, we are going to reframe this obstacle trains my, and we're leaving that blank because it's for you. This obstacle trains my, because we located, and I said, I feel stuck at what? What do you feel stuck at? Now that obstacle trains what? We locate, we engage. Now let's anchor down. Be still and know. Be still. Why are you still moving around? Be still and know. Psalms 46:10. That action we can take to anchor, to be still and know. Put your hand on your heart and just breathe 60 seconds. With your hand on your heart, breathe for 60 seconds. And in that stillness, know. Anchor down because you felt stuck. You identified this obstacle. Now we're going to anchor ourselves down so that we know what we need to do, what that actually is, what it's meant for us. And then we propel. James chapter 2, verse 26. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so too faith without works is also dead. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. Well, you better act like it. Do. That's the action. To propel, we have to act. Ain't no sitting still once we get to that point. We anchored in, we sat still. Now, once you sit still, it's time to go. Do one bold micro action today. For behold, I will do a new thing now. The cultural anchor that we have to support that comes from my guy, Thich Nhat Hanh. No mud, no lotus. No mud, no lotus. I don't know if you've ever seen a lotus. Beautiful, beautiful. Yet without the mud, you don't get it. Without that dirt, that pain, that struggle, that challenge, you don't get that beauty. It's needed for us to grow, for us to know who we are, and where we are supposed to grow. So what happens as we apply this protocol to our life? What is the ripple effect? Remember that plane stuck on the runway? We go from obstacles to runways. Now we taking off. And so our guided reflection prompts. I got my pen. You got yours? Cool. Number 1, what mud, that's the challenge, will you alchemize into a lotus using LeAP, locate, engage, anchor, propel? What mud, what challenge will you transform into a lotus using this new protocol? You gotta get it out the mud, literally and figuratively, spiritually and physically. Number 2, ER. Uno, dos. What have your current limitations taught you about what's next? What have your current limitations taught you about what's next? ER. 1, 2, 3. Uno, dos, tres. What is your propel action for the next 24 hours? What are you going to do in the next 24 hours to propel you forward? You don't know? Well, then locate it, engage it, anchor yourself in, and then prep. In the next 24, I'm going to do this. Our life mantra: God provides the wings, I provide the leap. God gonna give me the wings. I gotta leap in order to fly. I gotta jump. That bird, when it's in the nest, guess what happens? Whoop! You gotta get out. You got falling, you're gonna learn to fly. You don't learn to fly on the ground. You learn to fly in the sky on the way down. I know it's scary. And that's the beauty. So the closing charge that we have, your LeAP covenant that I offer to you, this action challenge. Let us reframe one ongoing obstacle as a sacred invitation to locate, engage, anchor, and propel us to leap. Let's create an expansion ritual. Create an expansion ritual for yourself, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, as long as it's for you. But I'll give you an example. You can go on a reflection walk. I love those. Honestly, I ain't even gonna lie. That's one of the best things for me. I'll just be like, you know what? I'll walk it out. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna go for a reflection walk. You can journal, mindful breath work. You can pick one of those things. You can do all of those things. But we only want to choose one thing, micro, right? We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Just choose one thing and start there. So maybe it's a walk, maybe it's a journal, maybe it's breath work, maybe it's dancing, singing, writing poetry, whatever it is that you do. And then we want to declare daily that I welcome this stretch. It's making room for more of me to emerge. That's what's uncomfortable. We got more of ourselves where we thought we didn't have anything, where we thought less, we actually have more. A Japanese proverb is going to be our wisdom anchor. It says, fall 7 times, rise 8. What? Fall 7 times. They say it's 3 strikes you out. No, fall 7, rise 8. Fall 9, rise 10. I got 99 problems. Getting up ain't one. So the life mantra that we have is growth is not pressure, it's permission. I welcome growth opportunities as sacred gifts. And finally, close us out. The final wisdom comes from Isaiah 40:31. And it says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Before we close it out, we normally close it out there, but I got a special treat for you if you stayed with me this long. I want to read to you The Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade wind soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.